Hello, welcome, this is Philip. Yes, it's that time again. It's a time for another reaction video. And today we're going to be reacting to the art of no other than Jung. He's a Korean artist that I admire very much, but I also kind of resent him a little bit because his skill level just exceeds at an abnormal level. I can't even speak the words. That's how abnormal it is. There's a saying that goes something like, doesn't matter how good you are at something, there's always an Asian better than you. And as an artist, that strikes to me as kind of a true, and especially with Kim Jung-gi. Today we're going to be taking a look at his art and see what makes him so good. So let's take a look. So we're going to check his portfolio real quick and see what made him who he is. I'm going to start from the bottom to the top. That's how I like to do it. What I see is a lot of dynamic movements, a lot of expression. I like to use the word dynamic because if you are able to carry over movement into your work, that's how things are going to look a lot more interesting. And similar to cartoons, you're going to exaggerate the movement and expressions in your drawings to convey the emotions or the movement to the viewer, because in real life we don't exaggerate our movement like crazy. We kind of do something like this, like, oh yeah, whatever. But in 2D and in animation and in movies, we actually have to exaggerate it a little bit to convey clearly to the viewer, and also it makes it more interesting to watch. Our first piece is exactly that. What I see mostly is a guy, especially on this piece, is a guy who controls the fundamental perspective so extremely well. It's like scary. It's uncanny to see, because this is a guy that from his childhood probably just drew non-stop, non-stop in the most literal sense, like never stopping. You can see here the way he handles perspective is like almost flawless. You can watch him draw and see how effortlessly he goes from line and then after another line, and then suddenly he made something perfectly in perspective. Usually when we start out as artists, we use guidelines for the base structure of our characters, for the head and torso, everything. We use guidelines and then we draw on top of it, and then we draw more clean again on top of it. But he doesn't use any guidelines, and everything, all the perspective, all the guidelines, all the structure, the anatomy, the gestures, everything is already in here, in his head. And that can only mean one thing. Whenever you're just drawing lines and just drawing the mental image that you have onto paper, that can only mean one thing. That means that you've drawn so many times that you already can effortlessly put what is in your head onto paper. That's what you get when you just draw endlessly into infinity and beyond. I really like his creatures and how much, emotion and expression and the characterization, like the caricature, you know what I'm trying to say, right? The caricature, the stylization of the creatures is something that I really enjoy watching in his drawings. He is mostly just line work, and he has like his famous brush pen that he uses. That traditional style, really, I never seen someone use it as prolific as he does. There's so much detail, and he can like draw endlessly into one sheet of paper. It's so nice to see someone draw whatever he wants without any effort because of his skill. So one thing that I learned from Kim Jung-gi is that drawing everything perspective, people in perspective, he draws everything in boxes. So faces are in boxes, the bodies are in boxes. Every object is in boxes because boxes can always be placed into perspective. A box is the most basic primitive shape that you can easily put into perspective, and so if something is inside a box, it's easier for you to imagine that in perspective or draw that in perspective with a box as your guideline. And he did that so many times that eventually, you're gonna be able to draw anything you want. And The only thing I have to say is that I like the traditional style, and he does it better than anyone I've ever seen. I like to see someone who draws whatever he wants, because he can, and because he trained one thing, and that is perspective. You know, hard work pays off, as they say, and he worked hard. This is gonna be it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you in the next one, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.